Welcome to the Deep Dive. We unpack complex topics, try to get you straight to the essential insights. Today we're looking into something pretty profound. The invisible architecture of our world. Think about it, right? From tiny airborne particles literally swirling around us to global economies. These huge systems, they seem chaotic sometimes, but they're actually governed by these incredibly complex hidden patterns that honestly, for most of history, were just beyond our grasp.
It really is remarkable, isn't it? We often see randomness, in the weather or maybe human behavior. But beneath all that, there are these deep relationships, subtle regularities driving outcomes, and our traditional ways of looking at things. I mean, brilliant, but they often struggle to really capture that level of complexity.
And that's where things get really interesting today, because artificial intelligence, especially machine learning, is stepping in. It's becoming this powerful new scientific instrument, not just for automating stuff anymore. It's literally helping us perceive and model these patterns that were, well, impenetrable before. It's like gaining a new sense.
Exactly. It's like AI is giving us a new set of eyes. We can start to see the underlying logic, the connections in systems we thought were just too complex to really understand, let alone influence.
So our mission in this deep dive is pretty clear. Explore how AI actually does this. We're going to get under the hood a bit, look at the mechanisms for pattern prediction, recognition, and crucially, explanation. How do we know why it found a pattern? And to make it concrete, we're using clean air as our main case study. It's a huge, multifaceted challenge. But, and this is important, the underlying pattern engine we'll be talking about, it's universal. It's how AI models human behavior, forecasts disease, personalizes learning, even decodes biology. It's everywhere.
Which really makes you ask, okay, what is a needed pattern then in this context? We're basically defining it as a discernible regularity or a relationship within a system. And identifying and explaining that pattern is critical if you want effective control or optimization or protection even. It's finding those hidden threads that, once you understand them, unlock the ability to act strategically.
Right. So get ready for hopefully some real aha moments today. By the end, you should have a much clearer picture, a shortcut, really, to understanding AI's pretty profound role in deciphering the patterns that shape our world. So let's dig in. Okay, so first things first, how does AI actually see these patterns? It feels like magic sometimes.
It's not magic, but it is a different way of thinking compared to traditional statistics. For a long time, statistics was mostly about inference, right? Using a sample to understand a whole group, looking for models you could easily interpret, understanding the why.
Yeah, testing hypotheses, quantifying uncertainty, getting that clear explanation of relationships.
Exactly. Machine learning, on the other hand, often puts prediction accuracy first, like above everything else. It wants to be right about new, unseen data, even if the process inside the box isn't immediately obvious.
And that tension, interpretability versus accuracy, that was a big deal initially, wasn't it? Especially in fields like environmental science, where you want models grounded in physics.
It was. But then data sets just exploded, became massive, and the limits of older models for capturing really complex nonlinear stuff became clear. So ML's predictive power got incredibly attractive, especially if you had enough data to hopefully avoid some of the pitfalls like overfitting.
Right. So we've seen this shift.
A real paradigm shift, yeah. First, ML was maybe just seen as a slightly better statistical tool. Then, very quickly, everyone realized just how critical data is. Quality, volume, consistency, that whole data-centric view. And now we're in an even more interesting phase, combining data-driven methods with actual domain knowledge. Think about things like physics-guided neural networks. You're literally embedding known scientific laws into the AI structure.
So it's not just learning from data correlations, it's respecting the rules of the road, physics-wise.
Precisely. It grounds the AI's findings, makes the patterns it finds more robust, more trustworthy. It anchors it in fundamental principles.
So it's this whole ecosystem algorithms, massive data, human expertise kind of guiding it. But how does the actual learning work? Step by step.
It's a pretty structured process. Starts with data collection and pre-processing. And this part is absolutely vital. Cannot stress that enough. Imagine environmental data, sometimes inconsistent, not standardized, maybe just noisy or low quality. So raw data needs serious cleaning. Normalization, so different scales don't throw things off. And then transforming it into meaningful variables, we call that feature engineering. Basically highlighting the things you want the model to pay attention to. Crucial for finding patterns.
Okay, so you're prepping the puzzle pieces, making sure they fit, then the model training itself.
Broadly, two main flavors. Supervised learning is like training with an answer key.
Yeah.
You feed it data where you already know the correct outcomes, the labels, like historical air quality readings matched with the actual measured pollutant levels for that time. The algorithm just keeps adjusting itself, trying to make its predictions match those historical facts, minimizing the error.
Makes sense. And unsupervised.
That's more like giving it the puzzle pieces, but no picture on the box. It gets data without labels and has to find the inherent structures itself. Like it might group together air quality monitoring stations that show similar pollution patterns without being told beforehand what patterns to look for. It just finds clusters.
Got it. You mentioned a potential pitfall earlier, though. Overfitting. What's that about? Why worry?
Overfitting, yeah. That's when a model learns the training data too well. It basically memorizes it. It picks up not just the real patterns, but also the random noise, the little quirks specific only to that data set. Like a student memorizing every word in one textbook, including the typos. They'll ace the test on that book, but can't apply the knowledge elsewhere.
So it fails in the real world.
Totally useless for real-world prediction, yeah. Especially with complex models, if you don't have enough diverse data, it hasn't truly learned, it's just memorized.
Needs to generalize, not just recite. Okay. Now let's talk about the actual engines here, the architectures. The big one is the neural network inspired by the brain.
That's the foundation, yeah. The basic one is the multi-layer perceptron, or MLP. Think of it like layers of interconnected neurons. An input layer gets the data. Then hidden layers do complex math, learning by adjusting connection strengths how much the listen to different inputs. And finally, an output layer gives the prediction. The amazing thing about MLPs is, theoretically, by adding enough layers, they can approximate almost any continuous function. They can model incredibly complex, nonlinear patterns.
Sounds like a powerful general-purpose tool. But then why do we need all these specialized architectures? CNNs, RNNs?
Because different data has different shapes, different structures, and specialized tools are just more efficient for certain jobs. Take spatial patterns, like analyzing satellite images for pollution sources or mapping land use. For that, you'd use a convolutional neural network, a CNN. They're brilliant at finding features in grid-like data, like pixels in an image. They sort of scan across it, looking for local patterns.
Okay, so maps, images, CNN territory. What about things changing over time? Like that air quality forecast example.
Right, for sequential data, time series data, where the past influences the future, like air quality, you use recurrent neural networks, RNNs. Unlike other networks, RNNs have loops. They have a kind of internal memory of past information. And advanced versions, like GRUs, gated recurrent units, are even better at managing that memory, deciding what information to keep or forget over longer periods. Crucial for forecasting.
So they remember the sequence. Then there are ensemble models, like random forest. Sounds like a committee.
Kind of is. Ensemble models work by combining lots of simpler models, often decision trees, to get a better, more robust prediction. A random forest, for instance, builds maybe hundreds of slightly different decision trees on random bits of the data and features, and then averages their predictions. They're often easier to interpret than super deep networks and less prone to overfitting because you're getting that wisdom of the crowd effect. Many simpler opinions are often better than one very complex one.
Right, averaging out the noise. And I hear people are even combining these now. Hybrid models.
Oh, absolutely. That's often the cutting edge, combining strengths.
Right.
You might use a CNN to pull spatial features from satellite data and an RNN to handle the time-based weather data, then feed both into a final layer for a really comprehensive forecast. The key takeaway is always matching the architecture to the data and the specific pattern you're hunting for. It's about the right tool for the right job.
Okay, so we've got a handle on how AI sees patterns. Let's really ground this now in that complex example, clean air.
Right. Predicting air pollutants, notoriously hard. You've got countless variables, chaotic atmospheric stuff going on. Traditional linear models like AirRIMA, they really struggle. Pollutant behavior is just too nonlinear, too changeable. They can't keep up.
But this is where AI really makes a difference, right? Bringing some order.
A huge difference. AI models now routinely predict daily, even hourly, concentrations of PM2.5, ozone, NO2, you name it. Deep learning, especially those RNNs and GRUs we mentioned, they excel because they can capture those complex time-dependent patterns. The forecasts are significantly more accurate. It's a massive leap.
What kind of information are they pulling together for these predictions? What are the key features? Stuff we might not even think is connected.
It's an incredible mix. You've got your meteorological data, obviously.
Yep.
Temperature, humidity, wind speed, direction, rain. Fundamental drivers for how pollution forms, moves, disperses. Then geospatial stuff. Altitude, land use, urban versus rural, how close you are to factories or highways, even vegetation density from satellite images, what's called NDVI. basically how green things are.
And human activity must be huge, right? We cause a lot of it.
Oh, definitely. Anthropogenic data is critical. Population density, real-time traffic data, locations of known industrial emitters. And finally, temporal data. Pollution follows cycles. Time of day matters, rush hour peaks, day of the week, seasonal trends like more ozone in summer. AI analyzes all this together, spotting interactions a human could never see. Like maybe a specific wind pattern plus high humidity plus Tuesday morning traffic creates a localized pollution spike that older models would miss. That allows for hyperlocal warnings.
That's incredible granularity. But it gets even more sophisticated with physics-guided AI. Tell us about AirFinet.
Right, AirFinet is a great example of where things are heading. Fusing AI's data crunching power with established physics. See, purely data-driven models, while powerful, might sometimes learn weird correlations, or even predict things that violate basic physics if the data's odd. AirFinet explicitly builds physical principles like how air particles diffuse and move with the wind, the math behind it, right into the neural network's architecture. They use these things called differential equation networks. It's like giving the AI a built-in physics tutor that ensures its learning stays grounded in reality.
So it's not just learning from data patterns, it's being constrained by known scientific laws. Make sure your predictions follow the rules of physics.
Exactly. It ensures the patterns it finds are consistent with atmospheric science, makes the model more robust, more accurate, especially when things change suddenly or data is sparse. It really shows how the best AI augments scientific knowledge. It doesn't just replace it.
A real partnership. But AI isn't just predicting the big picture, the atmosphere. It's working at the micro level, too, detecting tiny airborne threats.
Yes, absolutely. At the smallest scales, think biodefense or public health. Traditional lab tests for bacteria or viruses can take days. Now you have AI-powered microscopy. Optical sensors capture images of airborne particles, and then AI algorithms, often CNNs, analyze those images almost instantly.
So they can spot the visual fingerprint of a specific pathogen super fast.
Precisely. The AI is trained on images to recognize the unique shape, the morphology of specific bugs, like Bacillus anthracis, the anthrax agent. It can distinguish it from harmless dust or pollen with really high accuracy, like over 95%, giving you an early warning that was just impossible before. Pattern recognition right down at the cellular level.
Wow, huge implications there. And this extends right into our homes. Smart indoor air systems.
Definitely. Modern smart air conditioners, purifiers. They're packed with sensors, tracking temperature, humidity, CO2, VOCs, those chemical fumes, particulate matter, allergens. The AI watches this data constantly, sees a spike in VOCs from, say, cleaning products. You can automatically kick up the fan, maybe activate a specific filter, like activated carbon. It's like an automated guardian for your indoor air.
So it reacts, but can it be proactive too? Can it anticipate?
That's the next level, yeah. It moves beyond just reacting. By analyzing historical data, patterns of who's in the room, even checking the outdoor air quality forecast, the AI makes predictive moves. It might learn, okay, big meeting scheduled for 10 a.m., let's increase ventilation at 9.45, or ramp up filtration before the pollution from morning traffic hits. Some systems even use things like reinforcement learning to optimize the entire HVAC system for both energy savings and tackling localized hotspots.
Amazing. So from the air in our rooms to how we treat wastewater, AI's finding patterns there too?
Wastewater treatment is another incredibly complex system. Biological, chemical processes. Lots going on. So you have IoT sensors feeding data constantly. Oxygen demand, pH, nutrient levels. AI algorithms analyze all that. They can then make real-time tweaks, adjust chemical dosing, change aeration levels to maximize pollutant removal while minimizing energy and chemical use. Huge savings potential, plus predictive maintenance. Spotting signs and equipment failure might be coming before it happens.
And what about finding where pollution comes from, especially those tricky sources that aren't just one place?
Source apportionment, yeah. Especially for non-point sources like runoff from farms or cities, that's tough. But AI models can look at complex relationships, land use upstream, the slope of the land, rainfall, the specific mix of pollutants found downstream. They can learn to recognize unique signatures associated with different sources, like this particular mix of nutrients usually comes from that type of farming activity. This helps target cleanup efforts much more effectively.
So looking across all these examples, tiny pathogens, indoor air, huge wastewater plants, atmospheric prediction, is there a common thread, a core idea?
There really is. What's fascinating is that whether you're talking about airflow or chemical reactions or pollutant transport, the fundamental AI-driven control loop is the same. You have sensors gathering data from multiple sources, An AI model analyzes this complex, often nonlinear data to identify relationships and predict what's next. And based on that prediction, some actions taken to optimize the system, push it towards a desired goal, cleaner air, lower energy use, more efficient removal. It shows AI isn't just a specific tool for one job. It's acting like a universal process optimizer. Find the pattern, predict the future, help make things better.
This idea of a universal process optimizer, it sounds incredibly powerful, but that power often comes with that big question mark we mentioned, the black box problem. These AI models give amazing answers, but often we don't really know how they got there.
That's absolutely right, especially the most advanced ones. Deep neural networks. They can be incredibly accurate, but their internal logic, often opaque, and that opacity is a real barrier for several key reasons.
Because I can imagine someone listening thinking, look, if it gets the right answer consistently, who cares how? What's the pushback against that?
Well, first, scientific validity. We need to know the model is right for the right reasons, not just latching onto some weird coincidence in the data, some spurious correlation. If an AI predicts a major pollution event but can't explain why, can we trust it? Can we base policy on it, like shutting down a factory? Probably not. You need that transparency to build trust, to get buy-in from policymakers, regulators, the public.
And practically, if something goes wrong with a black box, how do you even start to fix it?
Exactly. Error diagnosis is a nightmare. An explainable model might reveal, oh, I put way too much weight on that faulty sensor reading, or I didn't account for this rare weather event. That kind of insight is crucial for actually improving the model, understanding its weaknesses, not just hitting reset and hoping it works better next time. It gives you that component-level understanding.
Okay, so we need to crack open the black box. And that's where explainable AI, XAI, comes into play. What is this exactly? A specific technique?
Not really one single technique. It's more like a whole toolkit, a collection of methods designed specifically to make AI predictions and behaviors understandable to us humans. Some methods work by kind of probing the model, tweaking inputs to see how outputs change. Others try to analyze the internal math more directly.
Can you give us a flavor, a couple of key XAI methods people are using?
Sure. One really influential one is called SCHAP. That's Shapley Additive Explanations. It comes from game theory, actually. It tries to fairly assign credit for the prediction to each input feature, like how much did temperature contribute versus wind speed versus traffic data. It's mathematically solid, gives you precise contribution values, but downside, it can be computationally very intensive, especially for really big models.
Okay, so S-shape tells you who gets credit. What about something called LIME?
LIME, Local Interpretable Model Agnostic Explanations. This one focuses on explaining single individual predictions. So if the AI says your specific neighborhood will have bad air quality tomorrow, LIME tries to build a simpler, understandable model just using data points similar to yours to explain that specific prediction locally. It's flexible, works with different model types, but the explanations can sometimes be a bit unstable, change slightly if you tweak the parameters, and defining that local neighborhood can be tricky.
And partial dependence plots, PDPs.
PDPs offer a more global view. They show the average effect of one or maybe two features on the model's prediction across the entire data set. So it might show generally, as temperature goes up, predicted ozone goes up. Simple, gives a nice overview. But limitation. It can hide important variations or interactions, and if features are strongly correlated, it can sometimes be misleading.
Right, averages can hide details. Lastly, layer-wise relevance propagation, LRP.
LRP is designed specifically for deep neural networks. It works by tracing the prediction signal backwards through the network's layers. It assigns a relevant score to each input, basically highlighting which input features, like which pixels in an image, were most important for the final decision. It follows the actual network structure, which is great, but it can have issues in very deep networks, and the exact results can depend on the specific propagation rule you choose.
So we have this growing toolkit, which is good, but it sounds like XAI isn't perfect yet. What are some of the big limitations we still face?
Yeah, there are definitely challenges. One major one is discordance. You can apply different XAI methods to the same model and the same prediction and get conflicting explanations. One method might highlight feature A, another feature B, that obviously doesn't build confidence. Which explanation do you trust?
That's a serious issue for trust, yeah. And you mentioned correlation versus causation earlier. XAI doesn't solve that.
No, fundamentally it doesn't. XAI shows you what features the model learned to correlate with the output. It reveals what the model relies on, but it doesn't tell you if that reliance is based on a true causal link or just a statistical association. Like the classic ice cream sales and crime rates example correlated due to warm weather, but one doesn't cause the other. XAI might highlight ice cream sales if the model uses it, but it doesn't validate the causal logic.
So the explanation we get, it might not even be a faithful reflection of what the AI is really doing internally.
That's a key critique. Many argue that XAI methods often produce simplified narratives, useful summaries perhaps, but not a true window into the complex high-dimensional math the model is actually performing. The explanation is helpful for humans, it makes sense to us, but it might be smoothing over complexities or representing the decision process in a way that isn't entirely accurate to the model's internal state.
And can these explanations be, well, faked? Manipulated?
Unfortunately, yes. Research has shown it's possible to design models that look fair or unbiased according to XAI methods while actually having hidden biases. You can essentially create misleading explanations that point to legitimate factors, while the real discriminatory logic is masked. This raises huge concerns about auditing and verification.
So given all that, what is an explanation from XAI? If it's not the AI's literal thought process, what are we actually getting?
That's a crucial point. We shouldn't think of it as a direct transcript from the machine's mind. It's better to see XAI methods as sophisticated translation tools. They take the incredibly complex, counterintuitive reality of how a deep neural network functions, and they map it onto a format that humans can grasp, something narrative, low-dimensional, fitting our cognitive biases. The explanation is ultimately a human-centric construct. It's designed for our need for understanding, validation, and trust, rather than being a perfect reflection of the AI's internal mathematical reality.
That framing is really helpful. It's a translation, maybe an approximation, but a necessary one for us to interact with these systems responsibly. Okay, let's zoom out again. We saw AI as this pattern engine for clean air. Now let's broaden that lens. How does this same engine apply across, well, pretty much everything else? Human systems, biological systems.
It's fascinating how the same core principles apply. The AI architectures that forecast pollution can absolutely be turned inward, so to speak, to model the complex patterns of human activity, both individual and collective.
So looking at individual behavior first, how does AI analyze our digital trails?
Right. Behavioral AI collects data from all sorts of interactions, clicks, typing patterns, purchases, social media activity. For this, it builds a behavioral baseline for an individual. Then, anomaly detection algorithms look for deviations. An unusual login location, maybe typing cadence changes, and possibly fast travel between sessions. These flag potential security threats like account takeover. But beyond security, analyzing language, interaction patterns, AI can be used to construct psychological profiles, inferring personality, emotional states, even assessing risk levels in certain contexts.
Wow. Incredibly powerful and definitely raises some ethical questions we need to keep in mind. What about us as groups? Collective behavior.
At the macro level, AI is deciphering patterns in social and economic trends. Models analyze vast data sets from social media, online shopping, search queries, trying to predict what content will go viral, which products will sell, even spotting emerging cultural shifts. The patterns here aren't simple counts. They're looking for complex signals like engagement velocity, the emotional valence of comments, the network structure of how information spreads. It allows for surprisingly accurate forecasting of collective dynamics.
And this inevitably touches politics too, I assume.
It's definitely a dual-use technology there. On one hand, political campaigns use predictive models, fueled by consumer and social data, for highly targeted voter messaging, micro-targeting. But on the other hand, AI is also vital for protecting elections. Security models analyze network traffic and online content, trained to spot patterns indicative of cyber attacks or coordinated disinformation campaigns, including increasingly sophisticated AI-generated deepfakes.
Okay, so human systems, talk check. Does the pattern engine apply just as well to biological systems, life itself, disease?
Absolutely. The fundamental logic, finding predictive signals in complex, noisy data, translates directly. Think epidemiology and genomics.
How is AI changing how we track disease outbreaks?
Traditional surveillance waits for reports from doctors, hospitals. There's an inherent delay. AI-driven epidemiology looks for early warnings in less traditional, real-time data streams. Things like analyzing spikes in Google searches for flu symptoms in a specific area, or mentions on social media, even population movement data from phones. By spotting patterns in this digital exhaust, AI models can often predict outbreaks a week or two before the official report to confirm it. It's conceptually very similar to tracking pollution plumes, just tracking pathogens through a population network instead.
A direct parallel, that's striking. And genomics, reading the code of life. That sounds like data overload.
It is data overload. Sequencing a human genome generates billions of data points. Impossible for humans to sift through manually. AI is essential here. Deep learning models scan these massive DNA sequences, looking for subtle patterns, variations, or variants linked to diseases. There are even advanced models, like one called Primate AI 3D, that try to predict the functional impact, the pathogenicity, of a brand new genetic variant that's never been seen before. AI helps clean the raw sequence data, prioritize potentially harmful variants, even scan scientific papers, dramatically speeding up the diagnosis of rare genetic disorders.
Helping us read our own instruction manual. Incredible. And finally, what about learning itself? Education, development.
AI is starting to reshape education towards personalized learning. The old one-size-fits-all lecture model, not always efficient. AI platforms can analyze how a student is doing their pace, where they struggle, what they prefer, and tailor the curriculum in real time. It can recommend specific videos or exercises, adjust the difficulty of problems, provide instant feedback. It supports a more flexible, individualized path, crucial for lifelong learning too.
And even predicting who might need extra help.
Yes. Schools and universities gather lots of data grades, attendance, online platform engagement. AI models can analyze this history to identify patterns that predict future success or who might be at risk of dropping out. But crucially, this is where explainability becomes really important. You don't just want a prediction, you need XAI to highlight why. Is it falling attendance, poor quiz scores, a specific concept they're stuck on? That transforms a prediction into an actionable insight for teachers or advisors to intervene effectively.
So looking across all these domains again, air, human behavior, disease, learning it, really comes back to that core idea, doesn't it? Finding that needed pattern.
Exactly. In every single case, the needed pattern is some complex, multivariable, often nonlinear relationship hidden deep within high-dimensional data. A relationship that's predictive of some outcome or hidden state, predicting PM 2.5 levels from weather and traffic, predicting an account takeover from subtle behavioral shifts, predicting disease risk from genetic variants. The unique power of the AI pattern engine is its ability to isolate that faint predictive signal from what seems like overwhelming noise, a task often impossible for humans or traditional linear methods.
And the need for finding that pattern, it always comes back to a human goal, right? We want to control something, mitigate risk, improve an outcome, prevent pollution, stop the hacker, contain the virus, help the student succeed. It's driven by our objectives. What an incredible journey through this topic. We've really unpacked AI as this universal pattern engine. We saw its power in prediction and recognition, using clean air as a concrete example, but then saw how that same core logic applies almost everywhere. That fundamental loop, monitor the data, predict the future state, optimize the system that truly does seem to weave through all these applications.
It does, and we also hit on that crucial tension, didn't we? Between the power of these models, especially the opaque ones, and our very human need for understanding and explanation, which brought us to explainable AI, remembering it's not a perfect mirror of the AI's mind, but a vital translation tool. A human-centric interpretation needed for trust, validation, and responsible use.
And seeing it applied to human systems, biological codes, education, it hammers home just how versatile this pattern-finding mechanism is. That ability to pull a predictive signal out of complex noise is the key.
But, and this is critical, that universal power brings universal responsibilities, profound ones. The same AI that identifies pollution sources could, if trained badly or used carelessly, reinforce discriminatory housing or lending practices. The same behavioral modeling for cybersecurity has implications for manipulative advertising or surveillance. The power to predict and identify patterns is inherently linked to the power to influence and control, and that demands extremely careful thought, ethical guidelines, and a constant focus on fairness and transparency.
So where does that leave us? Do we just blindly trust these increasingly powerful black boxes, or do we shy away from them because the risks seem too high?
Neither. I think the path forward seems to be towards a kind of symbiotic intelligence. It's about creating a true partnership, combining irreplaceable human domain knowledge, our critical thinking, our ethical judgment, with the incredible pattern recognition horsepower of AI systems. But crucially, those AI systems need to be as transparent, as explainable, and as accountable as we can possibly make them.
So what does this deep dive mean for you listening? Perhaps it suggests we shouldn't just be passive consumers of AI's outputs. We need to be active participants, engaged in how these systems are built, how they're audited, how they're deployed. It's through that synthesis, that collaboration between human insight and AI's pattern-finding prowess, that we can really harness this technology effectively, to use the pattern engine to build a safer, a healthier, maybe a more sustainable world. And it leaves us with a final thought. What other crucial, complex patterns currently hidden from us do you think AI should be tasked with uncovering next? Something to ponder.
Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.
This is DigitView.